Hello, thank you once again and welcome to my channel. In this tutorial, we are going to proceed, we are going to continue with the project we are working on. In the second part of this tutorial, we deployed our visual network. What we are going to do here now in this third part of the tutorial is to deploy our visual machine. It's going to be Linux visual machine, Ubuntu to be specific. We are going to also create our subnet, create our interface, and other things that come with it. So let's proceed. Before I do that, if you watch the other video, you will see that this is like what we are looking at now is like the second video. For the third one, uh, I'm going to replicate the existing this second video, which is lesson 2. I'm going to copy lesson 2. Let's call it lesson 3. Oh, let's call it lesson 3. Now we got our lesson 3, which is the same, has the same content as what we had in lesson 2. Now let's go to the Visual Studio, and the first thing we are going to do is to declare some variables we are going to need. So let's go to our, this is the second video, the second tutorial. That's the third one. I'm going to just go on and rename this to lesson 3, which is not required anyway, but I will just rename it. In lesson 3, let's go to our variables folder. And these are the not folder, but a variable file. These were the variables we created in the previous video. So now we are going to create more variables. To do that, so from here we are going to have more variables, just to show where we are starting from now. So I have these variables that I've already created in order to not to waste a lot of time. As you can see, these variables we have, one is for our subnet. We are going to have our subnet where we are going to deploy our visual machine. And so this will be the subnet that we are going to create. So it will be, as you can see, we already had our address space. So from there, we are creating this subnet. After that, for our visual machine, we are going to have a visual machine size, the size of the visual machine. What we are using here is standard B1S. This, to some extent, is free. Depends if you are using the free version of Azure. So to some extent, it is free if you haven't utilized all your quota. So you need to check to make sure that you are eligible to have the free version of it. Also, we have our storage type, which is standard RS. So also check the pricing to make sure that you're eligible. Also, we are going to create a user so that we can create our public key to use it to connect our Azure portal. After that, we also create a public key. So we are going to create a user, we are going to create a public key. For the public key, so I'm going to show you how you are going to create it. So these are the variables that we are going to need. Now, we are going to go to our, let's go to the file where we are declaring our resources. As you can see, that's where we stopped earlier in the previous video. The next, now we are going to start from here. What we are going to do in order to make this fast, let's go to the Terraform registry and get the code that we are going to use. What you can do, just go to the registry and search for Azure Linux virtual machine. When you find it, it should be under compute. Resources, you can find it somewhere here. Okay, that's what we need, the first one. When you open it, you are going to find this code. Because we are starting from the subnet, let's just copy the subnet part. Let's copy the subnet part. Let's go back to the Visual Studio. I'm going to paste it here. Now we are going to, I think something is missing. We are going to modify the code to reflect what we need. To start, we are going to, this one is called internal. Here we are going to use our own resource group, which is RG, as you can see. We are going to use resource group here, .name. Here we are going to change this to VN, which is Visual Network. .name, as you can see, that's the Visual Network. The next thing we need to do here, because we declared a variable in a, we declared our subnet in a variable, if you remember, that's what it is. So we are going to change this to reflect our variable. So that's what it should be. The next thing we need to change is the interface. For the interface, let me call it interface. Let me call it here for name. I'm just going to leave it as Nick. Location, I'm going to change this to RG. Dot location. For the name, resource group, I'm going to change this to RG. Dot name. The next thing we need to change here is the subnet. For the subnet, we are going to change this to RG as well. Subnet ID. Let's see what we still need to change. So this is what it should be. The next thing that we need to declare is our virtual machine. For this, actually, let me see. We are going to go back to the page to copy the code. So this is what we are going to need. So I'm going to copy the entire code that we've got here. Just from Azure Linux Virtual Machine, just copy everything. Let's go back to Visual Studio. Let's paste it. Paste it below the code that you had earlier. Now we are going to make our changes. Now we have our Visual Machine here. I'm going to call this, let me call it VM. Here, I'm going to call it vMachine. And the resource group, we are going to change this to RG, depending on what you called yours. And for the location, rg.location. For the size, if you remember, we already declared size, VM size. The storage, we already have our storage, so we are going to change some of these. So let's call our variable dot VM size. And for user, we already created a user variable here, which we called it admin user. We are going to use that. So let's call it var.admin user. The next thing that we need to do here is network interface ID. Here we are going to use Azure Visual Interface. Oh, I think I'm changing the wrong thing. Oh, this is what I needed to change. Let me see. Okay, I seen where the mistake. It's not even a mistake, but let me just rearrange the code. Dot interface. If you remember, I called it interface somewhere there. Dot ID. Let's make sure that everything is copied properly. So that's what I was talking about. So interface. So we are calling our visual network interface here. The next thing here is we are going to use our variable again here. And then here we are going to do the same. We are going to call our public key here. If you remember, we also created a variable for our public key as well. We created for the user, for the public key. We are making use of those here. The next thing we need is the source image, the image of the virtual machine that we are going to launch. So this is the image I'm going to use, right? What we are going to do now is to create the public key. So let's head to the terminal. Now back to the terminal. We are going to create our the public key. To do that, I'm going to keygen -t RSA 4096 to make it stronger, -c. Let's call it admin user. I hope that's correct. Let me change this to uppercase. Admin user. Enter. Enter, enter, enter. We've created our key, our public key. What we need to do now, let me see. Oh. That's our public key. So that's the private one. That's the one we are going to use in our, we use to connect our Azure portal. So now let's go back to our Visual Studio. Now that we have created our public key, I'm going to make a little bit of changes here. As you can see, or I probably said earlier that I'm using MacBook. So because I'm on a MacBook, or if you're on a Linux, this is not going to be read. So we are finding a different way to use our public key. To do that, I'm going to comment this out. What I did was to add my public key in the file or in the folder that I'm using. This file you're looking at, I just created this file and I added the path to my public key. I'm going to show you what it looks like. That's the path to my public key, and the name is public key. All you just need to do, I'm going to comment this out. I'm still going to use the variable name. As you can see, we still have the variable name here. So if you are on Windows, you should leave yours intact. You don't need to do this. But if you are using Linux or MacBook, you might want to make the same change, or there could be other ways you could use your public key. Now, let's go and run our code. Let's start by Terraform validate. Let's plan. This might take a minute. Everything seems to be good. Now, let's apply. As always, this is going to take longer. Now, let's say yes to proceed. As this takes longer, I'm going to fast forward the video. Now that our resources are deployed, let's go to the Azure portal and see the outcome. I'm logged in. Now let's see what we've got. That's my resource group. In the resource group, as you can see, we've got our virtual machine. That's what our virtual machine looks like. So that's it for this video. In the subsequent one, we are going to create our security groups and deploy our web app. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a like, subscribe. Thank you. Bye.